Odds are, if you've ridden a dirt bike before, you know exactly what this is. And if not, I'll break it down for you. So for a majority of dirt bike history, this has been the main way that you start a bike. Essentially, you just unfold the lever and kick it, hence the name, the Kickstarter. What this does is spool up the motor enough to give it a chance to start firing under its own load. But the thing is, in recent times, all major bikes have switched to electric start. And if you don't know why this is so important, let me explain it to you. Let's say you're riding your bike and you go up this hill. Right before you get to the top, you turn away a little bit and now you're stuck on the side of the hill. Your bike died, so you're pretty much stranded. Now in order to start your bike, you have to kick it. So you pull out your lever and you get ready to start kicking it, and then you completely fall down the hill. Whereas if you had electric start here, you could just press the button and went on your way. This is the exact thing that made me want to solve this e-start problem for older bikes. Because if you put a bunch of money and time into a bike that you love, you shouldn't have to give it up just to have electric start. And over the past 6 months, this is what I've spent all my time developing. And today, I'm going to be working on the best version I've ever made. But I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here. So let me just explain how this all is going to work. So starting from inside the bike. When you kick your bike, you're actually just turning a gear, which turns another gear, which turns another gear, which turns the crankshaft. And turning your crankshaft is what allows the bike to start itself. Now there are some other people who've designed kits for certain bikes that use this crankshaft thing, but they're smart enough to bypass the whole kickstart deal and they just go on the stator side, which gives you a much easier access to the crank. Thing is, if you do that, you have to build a whole custom stator, and it's extremely bike specific. But I think if you can make something that goes off of the kickstart shaft and not have to go in the bike as much, you can be way more universal and get a ton more bikes. But here's the deal, right? When you kick your bike, you're actually sending that kick through a speed increaser. So one kick is like 3 or 4 rotations at the crank. So if I want to make something that can do this automatically with a motor, there's a few things I have to figure out. I'm gonna have to figure out how to reverse the whole gear reduction that's inside the bike, and then also have to figure out how I'm gonna match the force needed from a kick on the outside of the bike to the kickstart shaft. And then we have to think about, if I'm gonna have this be like a regular e-start, that kickstart shaft is gonna have to be constantly spinning one direction. So I'm gonna need some sort of clutch mechanism to make this happen. So here's how this is all gonna work. I'm gonna make a gear reduction that goes off of my starter motor, which attaches to my kickstart shaft, which has a built-in one-way clutch mechanism, which then transmits torque straight to the crank through the original kickstart shaft stuff inside the bike. To do this gear reduction, I'm gonna use a massive compound gear train. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the first time that I've ever made a compound gear train gearbox. I did my math on my reduction and I should need like 5 or 6 gears to make this happen. And after getting everything sized up and looking right, it was time to organize these gears in a way that would fit where I need them to fit. Because this would all be easy if I could just make it huge, but this has to be able to fit on a bike and be reasonable. And also, in my last design, I used a chain in order to drive from the gearbox to the kickstart shaft, but instead, for this time, I'm gonna use a shaft to drive this. This shaft will go straight to a gear that's inside the gearbox, which will go to a crown gear, which will start the whole drivetrain of the system. Now, there's a lot of very interesting things I could go into with this, but with that done, I was on to figuring out my internal clutch mechanism for this design. On the last iteration of this, I used a helical threads kind of design, and here's basically how that worked. So imagine you have a bolt and a nut, and you want to move this nut up the bolt a little bit. To do that, you just turn the bolt underneath the nut. So if you think of my kickstart shaft as my bolt and my clutch mechanism as my nut, you could see how I could use this. When the kickstart shaft is turned, it will move the clutch grabber piece towards the back of the starter gear. And from the factory, the starter gear has teeth on it that allow it to be driven this way. Then when the motor takes over power, it will automatically disengage because of the way the ramps are designed. And just a reminder, this was the idea for version 1, which in real life looked pretty cool and I was pretty excited to try it out. And I was really hoping that the surface finish wouldn't really matter.
Here we go.
But then once I went to test it, it ended up not actuating as much as I wanted it to.
1. God damn it. I always forget to do that.
And in order for me to even test last time with that, I had to tilt the entire bike over. So we need a rework for this time. And my idea was to use a set of ramps. These ramps would essentially have the same function as the threads, except they were just a different design with a lot less friction. When the shaft is turned, the clutch will rise up because of the ramps. When it does this, it will engage with the starter gear, which will start the bike. After the bike is firing on its own, it will then automatically disengage like the last one. And this design change, paired with my new gearbox, I felt pretty ready to make the mounts for this. So while I'm making these mounts, I want to tell you guys about today's video sponsor, which is Onshape. I have been using Onshape since the very start of all of my projects on this channel, and I absolutely love it. It is a cloud-based CAD software, which means you don't have to have a crazy computer in order to use it. And it's really beginner friendly with tons of resources out there to help you figure out how to do things. So if you want to start getting into making your own projects for your bikes, make sure to check them out using my link in the description. When you use my link, it'll bring you to a place where you can sign up for a free 6-month trial, and it'll also let them know that I'm doing a good job and they'll want to keep supporting me on these projects. So whether you're a seasoned engineer or new to CAD, just go check them out, you'll love it. And since I don't really have a shop or tools, I'm gonna order all my parts online. And just like that, in a week or two, I had all my parts ready and we were gonna do some assembly. One of the hidden bonuses of ordering parts is usually they're made perfectly and I don't have to do anything. So it's kind of a bonus. But I was able to do a little bit of a dry fit and make some adjustments that I needed to make. Like I had a few holes that were a little bit too small and some of my splines did not end up fitting where I needed them to fit. So I burned a few days just making sure everything was fitting right and make sure all my tolerances were okay. And that's all on me. So here's the thing, right? When you order a part and it's not designed properly, no matter how great they make the part, it's still never gonna work. So note to self for next time, don't make bad parts. But after I had it mostly together, we were ready for a few bench tests.
Beautiful.
And judging by the fact that there wasn't any explosions, I think we're looking pretty good for the next stage of testing.
Okay, don't mind the mess, it's absolute chaos. There's our positive, and here is our ground. So we're about to do the first test ever. Well, the other one didn't go very well. 2, 1. So we're gonna call this the first ever one. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. That did not sound good. Try it again. Wow, that was bad. Okay, so upon further inspection, the reason why I was making that chattering is, so I didn't tighten my bolts down enough. I don't know why I didn't do that. Yeah, they're like finger tight. But I want to open this up anyways and see how it looks in there now. Is this? Not too bad. This thing is fine. Whatever. Fine.
So to sum up my findings, what I found is that the aluminum gears showed like a little bit of wear, and I think that was from the chatter, but everything else was pretty much fine. So I decided it was about time.
What's that? So here's the issue. That hole isn't quite lining up. Okay, so I need to file that out. Okay, it's officially mounted up to the bike to run, and it does stick out way farther than it will in the end. I messed up something and it doesn't want to go back in there all the way, but that's fine for now. So we're gonna get a test in here pretty quick. Okay, I'm pretty scared, honestly. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, I'm gonna look away.
So what's happening here is my motor was plugged in backwards, so it was spinning the wrong way and nothing was working. And I'll save you guys the hour it took me to figure out what was going on and just play the next clip. So I tried in the garage for another like 2 or 3 attempts with no results. And I even went outside and tried it and went as far as I could and it still didn't do anything. So I decided that my clutch was the problem and I just had to hand actuate it in order to get a real test in. And after that, we were ready.
I've got it activated. Let's see what happens when I press the button. That did not really sound good. Okay, I unbolted the gearbox. I'm just gonna do this. And we're gonna take this inside and check it out together because I don't know what's going on in here. So, it appears I have found my problem. I'm kind of scared. Most of the assembly is fine. Oh man. That bearing absolutely disintegrated. Oh no. Oh man.
So yeah, we had an absolute blowout. And honestly, I was not expecting this at all. I was pretty bummed for the rest of the day after this, and I didn't really want to do anything. But then I started thinking about why this happened. And I realized that the reason why this failed is because I didn't design it right at all. I didn't do nearly as much calculations as I should have, and after looking back at it, all of these were pretty much going to fail anyways. So even though this version failed, this was my way of getting the wake-up call of the next version will be based purely off math. I'm going to try to detach all emotion and all feelings of what I think is going to work, and I want only what will work. I'm definitely a learn by doing kind of guy, and this was definitely my way of learning this. That being said, I absolutely refuse to give up on this, and I'm already in way too deep. Since this failure, I started working on version 3, and I'm super excited for that one, because when doing my math, it says it will actually work. And if you guys want to be along on the ride for the rest of this project, make sure to hit subscribe, and I'll be posting tons of new stuff all the time.